we're going to continue with our exploration of Greek legacy, and today we're going to learn about the Olympic participants, the people who got to be a part of the ancient Olympic Games. I want to remind you of our annotation procedures. And I showed you last week, I made our new beautiful poster. So you have a resource on the board, and then you also have resources on your desk that we're going to use today. So you should have a yellow sheet on your center of your table for each of you, just in case you need it, as you remind yourselves how we're going to mark the text. When we close read, we want to write all over our paper. Do we want to have a blank paper when we're done? No. We want to have words circled, we want to write in the margins, we want to highlight, we want to underline. Because later when we go back and we read what we marked on the text, it helps us answer questions, it helps us go deeper into the text and really understand what we're reading. We're going to focus on vocabulary like we always do the first time. We're going to read it by ourselves. We're going to circle those words that are tricky, words we need to talk about, words we need to clarify. We're going to circle those in what color? Pink. Pink. Also, if something stands out to you as important, can we mark it? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so go ahead and get started on your first read now. I want you to talk in your groups about what words you circled. And the important part is, what do you think they mean? So remember last week we talked about context clues? Yes. Context clues are important because, you can grab another one, because they help us figure out those words that are tricky. If we don't have something like our iPad or our iPhone or a dictionary or a teacher or someone to ask. So when you look at those words that you circled, look at the words around them and see if they can give you some clues as to what the word actually means without having to go to your iPad. So our sentence frames, you're going to say which word you circled and tell what you think it means and why. What other ones did you guys figure out?
I didn't really figure it.
Did you get to this one?
Yes, spectators is kind of hard to get.
Okay, so what can we do? Are there any clues in there for spectators? Are there any word parts we could use?
Spect.
Yeah, what does spect mean?
See if people break rules in that game.
Maybe. Have you ever heard the word spectacles? Like glasses? What do we use glasses for?
To look.
To look. Okay, so now think of the spect. Might mean to look. Now look at the word again. What could that mean if you're a spectator?
So like this person like looking?
Someone who's looking. So let's go back and see. Women were barred not only as competitors but also as spectators. So
Like watch.
They can't watch it.
yeah. Okay, so write that down. That was a breakthrough. So our focus this time when we read for the second time is we're going to focus on trying to find that central idea. What is this text about? Make sure that you tell why you underlined something, that you justify your reasoning. And I want to ask you again to write in the margin. If you underlined something, write next to it why you underlined it.
In the ancient Olympics were not just average citizens. They had to be wealthy enough to travel to and from the games and to pay their lives expense while they trained. In the early days of the games, the only reward was a breath. Winning athletes, however, were expected to provide huge banquets to celebrate their victories.
In the text it says that women had to use a disguise to watch the game, and not just average citizens could compete in it because they had to be like wealthy.
Yeah.
Like the main idea is like that women were like they were banned from the Olympic Games.
Well, what do you guys think?
Well, I think it is because women weren't like able to go to certain places.
Okay. Do you agree, Sebastian?
And they were like harsh to them, so they were banned them from some stuff.
Okay. Is that what this whole piece is about, though? Like, if we had to look for supporting details, are all the supporting details about the women not being able to go? So then maybe we need to look at and examine another idea for the central idea. So maybe the women not being able to go is actually a supporting detail. What is this actually about? A clue here would be the heading, right? We know in nonfiction text when we're reading something, the heading kind of gives us a clue about what the selection's about. So why don't you guys revisit and see if we can find the actual central idea, because I think what you found is more like a supporting detail.
Supporting detail to the main detail.
So try that, and in a minute I'm going to get the class together and we're going to talk about it, because this is the tricky part, right?
It means like some of the women from this day on still try to watch the games. Because when we say the guys, some women couldn't watch, but they disguise themselves to try to watch the games.
Okay. So you think, is that what you think the whole piece of text is about?
No.
That's just a tiny little part of it, right? So what is it actually about? Go back to the title up here and see if that helps you think about the central idea.
I think that
It was limited to Greek citizens.
Okay, we're on the right track. Keep talking. See how going back to the text is helping you get there. When I went around the room, I noticed that we all got stuck on this idea that women couldn't participate. And that stands out to us, right? Because we did all that work with Athens and Sparta and we compared about women's rights. But really, when I go back and look at this piece of text, that's more of a supporting detail for the central idea. It's an important detail and it's an interesting detail, but when I look for the central idea, I'm looking for what is this entire selection about. This article is called Olympic Participants, and when I read nonfiction text, I know that the heading tells me a lot, so I'm going to circle that, okay? The heading tells me that this is going to be about the participants in the Olympics, or the who can participate. They had to be wealthy. There's that word wealthy again. What does wealthy mean? Rich, right? Money. So they had to be able to travel to and from the games, so I underlined that. They had to pay their living expenses. And they also were expected to provide huge banquets to celebrate their victories. I'm going to circle this word expected, because when I saw the word expected, something went off in my brain. And I thought of the word expectations. And when I looked back at this, I thought to myself, oh my gosh, this whole thing is about the expectations for the Olympic participants. What I have to do in order to be an Olympic participant. So I'm going to modify our lesson just a little bit, and I want each of you to go back, and I want you to read it by yourself this time. Okay? I want you to go back, and I want you to read it by yourself, thinking about what I just said to you, thinking about what I shared with you about what I underlined and what I thought. Go back and read it again one more time, and let's see if we can find the central idea now. Now that you've reread, I want you to just write in one sentence, I think the central idea is. Today, we did a lot of hard work trying to identify the central idea, and I want to remind you that we're going to come back to this piece of text. We're going to look at it again, and today you did an awesome job looking for the central idea. You were able to justify your reasoning with specific examples of the text, and when we look at it again, we'll come back to it looking for details to add on to what we learned today. One of the things that I had to do too was modify as I was going along. I had my PowerPoint planned, I had everything ready, what I was hoping we would get to is not always what we get to, especially with close reading, because the text kind of leads the way. And so when I noticed that they were all struggling with finding the central idea, I couldn't move on to the details until we had that central idea solid. And so one of my girls was dancing around the central idea but not getting right to it. And so when I look at her writing now, I can see that I need to give them more practice with the kind of text where it doesn't explicitly say what the central idea was. She was asking me, well, where's the word requirement? It's not in there. We had to infer that, we had to imply that. So now looking at this piece, I go, okay, we got to talk about inferences again. We need to talk about how we take inferences and help us determine the central idea. So close reading has really allowed the kids to show me too what they need me to focus on.